echo a point you made, Chris, about religion. The way I see it, you know this record, right? I'm sure you've seen that.
Can we talk about that a bit?
Yeah.
Pink Floyd, all right? Okay, let's just all agree, one of the greatest bands ever.
I came across a photograph in a French textbook, which was a glass paperweight, and the sun was shining in through the window, and there was refraction of a rainbow.
We're so programmed from the Reformation period to think what you call in terms of Cartesian dualism. Descartes, the philosopher, kind of not invented this idea, but the concept comes back from the Enlightenment period with writers like him. For me, I try very hard not to look at things in terms of either or dualistically. I tend to think of things as something can be multiplicit, something can have multiple meanings. And for me, that cover, well, it also says to me, here's the truth coming in, right? This is religion. This is the priestocracy.
The pyramid.
Yeah, the pyramid. Voila. There's no I there, but, you know, and these are the shards of light, the dissolution of the facts coming out, you know, and that's a great analogy for religion for me, because I think that if you read the ancient texts, they're a mixture of symbolism and reality. They're truth and myth in one, and that's where people get so confused, because that's where the religious part comes in, and if we look at it in reverse, we look at the ancient texts from this way, and we go into what is represented here, and we come out the other end.
And thirdly, was an answer to Rick Wright, who said that he wanted something
simple and bold and dramatic.
They came in and they looked around and they went, that one.
I like to take them as both literal and non-literal, which I'm able to do at the same time.
Dark Side of the Moon prism design comes from three basic ingredients, one of which is the light show, one of the themes of the lyrics, which was, I think, about ambition and greed.
I've always looked at it that way, going back to the Floyd pyramid, you know, the light coming in and then it getting refracted. That's what religion does, gets in the way of the truth, or it refracts it, the priestocracy. We'll be the intermediary between you and the light, you know. For me, it starts with the elites of antiquity, the Els, the Elohim, to use the Hebrew, were the Anunnaki, okay? It's very clear to me. But the Els were these two very distinct types of being. Just as you see in dinosaurs, you've got the avians, the birds, and the reptilians, okay? And this is where certain people get confused about the reptilian agenda. It's relating back to these two very distinct types of El, as depicted in the artwork that we see in Sumeria, Babylon, Assyria. You know, they were our ancient bloodline. Okay, we can talk about rhesus negative blood types and stuff, but the controlling elite bloodlines that exist in the world today and have always existed throughout history, which we'll look into, come from this group of people. Okay. They required a strong labor force to mine gold, copper, and various other precious metals. For what reason? Perhaps it was ancient technology. They created a hybrid race between the humans and their own species, and this is the Nephilim, okay? And this is very, very clear in the Book of Enoch. It's very clear in many accounts around the world, but the best Western version we have is the Book of Enoch. And one of these races were called the Nephilim. There were 4 other races as well, actually, which no one talks about. But it's very clearly written in the ancient Hebrew text. You've got the Gibborim, which means the mighty ones, the Anakim, which are the giant ones, the Amelikim, which are, I think, relates to the nomadic ones, the wanderers. The other one is the Rephaim, which meant the weak ones, in which group existed a sort of subsect called the Terrible Ones. And one of the kings of the Terrible Ones is a guy called Hanbaba, which is in the Epic of Gilgamesh. The Nephilim means fallen ones. And this is where you get the idea of the fallen angels story from in Genesis and Enoch. I think there's a bit of obscurity in that term, and I like to think that there's a code in that word. And for me, fallen means defiled. And so we have these bloodlines, okay, created these new bloodlines. These are the Nephilim. May also account for the dinosaurs. It may also account for you cut some of the mythological creatures you get, like the chimera, which is the kind of lions, the three-headed lion with the serpent's tail, and the unicorn was apparently a giant warhorse for the Nephilim, which was used for battle and stuff. The idea is that our DNA was altered in history. These demigods, these Anunnaki, bred a species of being, which then have gone on to roam the planet. The effect of that, well, we've got more than one type of human running around, okay, and they're having kids. So now we have effectively the Anunnaki elite bloodlines. Then you've got this hybrid Nephilim bloodline and everyone else, okay. And who knows? I mean, the Nephilim are just one of 5 groups, as I mentioned. The Gibborim, the Anakim. So you've got lots of mixing of the bloodline. You put the myths and the ancient texts and some of the archaeological evidence and the facts all around the world in different periods of history and different mythologies. That's quite a lot of evidence. That's enough to satisfy my curiosity, and it also underpins the theory of why things are the way they are today. Okay. Something is making certain groups of people behave a certain way. And whether that is because there is a hybrid bloodline that goes back to the Nephilim and the Anunnaki, or they are simply responding to that as a concept, they're still behaving a certain way, and there's a reason for it. We are the torchbearers for each other, and I mean, we're going to go on to talk about how, as a race, we're kind of more than one human race. So we're going to talk a bit about the fact that there's not just one human race, and I don't want to be too controversial there, but we need to start thinking of ourselves as being a bit messed around with in history, and which I'll explain fully. They're a mixture of symbolism and reality, that they're truth and myth in one.
The pyramids in Egypt, they align with the pyramids in Mexico.
Obscurity in that term, and I like to think that there's a code in that word, and for me, fallen means defiled.